The galactic Concord courtroom floated above the gas giant Yentra 5, a shining jewel of law and diplomacy in the center of the Milky Way. Beings of every shape and color filled the chamber. Ambassadors, warlords, scientists, and rulers from hundreds of alien species. They had gathered to witness something unusual. For the first time in over a century, Earth, home world of the humans, had been summoned to answer for its actions. On the raised central platform, Captain Alara Voss stood silently. She was tall, calm, and wore the black and silver uniform of the Terran Union Defense Fleet. Her face showed no emotion. Her eyes scanned the crowd slowly, pausing at every laugh, every insult, every pair of eyes that looked down on her people. She didn't blink. She didn't speak. She just listened. At the far end of the chamber, Emperor Drazul of the Krinax Dominion stood with a smug smile. His 6 arms waved dramatically as he addressed the crowd, his voice booming through the echo. Amplifiers. Look at them, Drazul shouted, pointing toward Alara. The humans. Hairy, slow, emotional. They come from a poisonous little world full of disease and death. Yet he paused, letting the laughter rise. They think they belong here among the advanced. The room burst into laughter. It pitched. Screeches, guttural howls, clicking and snapping. Laughter in every alien language. Alara stood still. The Krinax Emperor grinned wider. They send one ship to patrol neutral space. One, with hulls made of steel instead of nanofiber. Their AI barely thinks faster than a larva. Their gravity engines, loud and primitive. More laughter. Even the Concord guards couldn't hide their smirks. Several beings in the crowd slapped their tentacles or wings on the floor in amusement. Alara did not move. Drazul leaned forward, eyes glowing. And yet, when we ask them to step down, to accept our protection, they refuse. Humans would rather fight than kneel. Isn't that what they always say? Never kneel. He mimicked a human voice poorly, mocking the phrase. How cute. The camera zoomed in on Alara. Billions were watching this moment across the galaxy. On the galactic networks, memes were already spreading humans wearing diapers. Earth. Exploding from its own technology, captions mocking human pride. Humanity was a joke, a backwater. And today, the galaxy laughed. The chief chancellor of the Concord, a towering Avexi with blue feathers, banged his staff. The hearing will now conclude. Humanity has been warned. Any future unauthorized movement of Terran ships near Concord zones will be considered hostile. Let this be recorded. All eyes turned back to Alara. This was her moment to speak. She had remained silent the entire session. Surely now she would defend her kind. Argue, plead, show emotion. But Alara Voss stepped forward, raised her head, and simply said one word. Noted. The silence was sudden and sharp. The room froze. Some expected more. A threat, a speech, a challenge. But she turned, walked back to her ship, and left the chamber. On the human embassy ship. The Terran envoy team sat in silence as the shuttle docked. No one spoke. Not the pilot, not the assistants, not the AI. They had watched the transmission with blank faces. Alara stepped onto the bridge, removed her gloves, and looked at the stars beyond. Is the message ready? She asked. The AI.com? In soft-spoken, answered, Yes, Captain. It has been prepared for 300 years. Send it, she said. To everyone. In less than a second, across thousands of systems, a simple message appeared on every screen, in every language. On every frequency used by the galactic community, we remember. No further explanation. No signature. No warning. In a command. Bunker on Mars. Ancient machinery began to stir. Deep beneath the red sands, massive turbines powered up for the first time in 2 centuries. Robotic arms adjusted power cores. Long dormant systems whispered back to life. Project Titanfall, buried for generations, had activated. On the surface, Concord patrol ships passed by unaware. One ship, a small scout-class vessel, approached the area to investigate a strange heat spike. They scanned the surface. Nothing unusual. Just rocks, dust, and ruins, until the ground moved. A massive gun turret, larger than the patrol ship itself, rose from the Martian soil. The turret locked onto the ship in less than a second. The patrol ship tried to retreat, but it was too late. A single shot, silent and blue, sliced the ship in half. It didn't explode. It just fell apart, drifting into space like a cracked egg. No distress call, no survivors. No data logs, just silence. Concord High Command received the last known state position of the ship. They dismissed it as a mechanical failure. One ship lost. Not a problem. The humans wouldn't dare. They had no power, no fleet, no alliances. Just history and pride. But other things began to happen. Human cargo ships vanished near Concord trade routes. Old satellites stopped responding. Minor Concord outposts near Earth's outer colonies went dark. The Concord blamed pirates, anomalies, sensor errors. Then a small Concord listening post near Jupiter received a strange signal from Saturn. At first, it seemed like static. But deeper analysis showed a pattern, then movement, then shadows. The rings of Saturn were shifting. For centuries, the rings were thought to be made of dust and ice. That was true, but hidden deep within them were artificial platforms disguised to look like natural debris. Massive stations, cloaked and silent. Older than most Concord species, they were waking up. A Concord scout sent to observe was intercepted by a voice-only transmission. Unauthorized scan detected. Lever be deleted. The scout tried to run. It never made it past Titan. The human war veterans called these stations Black Ice Command, a ghost fleet, built in secret during the early space wars. Thought to be shut down, dismantled, or lost. But they had not been dismantled. They had been waiting. Meanwhile, the galaxy continued to mock humanity. Alien news networks aired jokes. Songs were written. Hologram comedians performed skits of humans running from laser fire with clubs in their hands. On the Concord capital world, children played a new game called Human Panic, where they ran around pretending to scream as fake explosions followed them. Parents laughed, the Terran ambassador on the planet received death threats and prank calls. The embassy's walls were spray-painted with insults. No security helped. They didn't need to. Humans were weak. Why be afraid? But back on Earth, silence ruled. In orbit, old space elevators began moving cargo up at record speed. The moons. Hidden vaults, long sealed, opened. Factories on Mercury lit up the surface with new forges. Venus launched autonomous drones into deep space. But still, humanity did not speak. Until one day, a Krynax warlord named Sithril, cousin of Emperor Drizel, entered the Sol system with a small war fleet. He transmitted on all channels. Humans, this is your final warning. You will kneel, or you will burn. Yes. Come face us, if you dare. Ilara Voss was already waiting. She sat aboard the TNS Hallowed Storm, a ship that did not exist on any Concord. Records, sleek black, coated in stealth mesh, powered by a reactor that burned colder than space itself. Sithril's fleet approached the Pluto outpost. They locked weapons, charged engines, fired. Nothing happened. The warlord's ship began to shake. Lights flickered. Gravity vanished. Screams filled the COMMs, then dash explosions. From within. One by one, the ships cracked, melted, shattered from the inside. Human hunter drones, too small to be seen, too fast to track, had already entered every ship hours earlier. Silent, hidden, deadly. The fleet was gone in minutes. And then, for the first time, the galaxy saw something terrifying. Human ships emerging. From darkness, thousands. They had no visible engines, no loud transmissions, no glowing lights, just black armor, heavy guns, and shields that bent light around them. They moved like shadows, like ghosts. The Concord watched the footage in horror. Their analysts couldn't understand the tech. Their spies had no clue where the ships came from. Their leaders panicked. They had laughed at humanity. But now, humanity had responded, and the galaxy would never laugh again. The Concord Empire still didn't believe the humans were a threat. Even after the Krenox fleet vanished near Pluto, many thought it was just a mistake, a technical failure, a solar storm, anything but human power. But on the edge of the galaxy, small things were starting to go wrong. One by one, Concord cargo ships started disappearing in human border space. No explosions, no distress signals, they just vanished. Search teams were sent, but nothing was found, no wreckage. No signs of life. Not even energy trails. In one case, a cargo vessel tried to scan an asteroid belt near Alpha Centauri. The scan failed. Then their engines went offline. Then their AI stopped responding. The crew panicked and tried to reboot everything, but they never got the chance. Their last recorded image showed a flash of silver. Something fast, sharp, and spinning. Then static. The Concorde still refused to believe the humans were behind it. How could they be? Earth had been quiet for so long. Their military hadn't shown any real power in centuries, but someone else knew the truth. In a hidden base beneath the icy surface of Europa, deep within the Jupiter system, an old general named Marcus Terran stood before a massive holographic map. His uniform was black, his face scarred, and his eyes burned with something the Concorde had forgotten: human fury. "Phase 1 is complete," he said. A younger officer beside him nodded. "All Concorde scouts near the solar system are gone. Mars defenses are online. Black Ice Command reports full activation." Terran smiled. "For too long they laughed at us," he said. "They thought Earth was weak, but we never forgot. We're just waiting." Another officer approached, holding a datapad. "Sir, we have a message from Earth's High Command." Terran took the pad. One word blinked on the screen: "Advance." The general turned to his team. "Prepare the drones. Target. Concorde relay stations. Leave no trace." Far above Europa, hundreds of human stealth drones detached from the shadows of moons and rocks. They were invisible to Concorde sensors, each one shaped like a knife, fast and quiet. They flew in formation, spreading out across space, and the next few hours, over 40 Concorde satellites and relays were destroyed across its 12-star systems, not with missiles, not with lasers, but from the inside. Some were hacked and forced to overload. Others simply vanished, pulled into secret gravity traps created by human science that the rest of the galaxy had never seen. The Concorde called an emergency meeting. Dozens of alien leaders argued and shouted inside the High Council chambers on Vendari Prime. The footage of destroyed stations was playing on every screen. "This is a coordinated attack." One screamed. "Pirates don't have this kind of tech," another said. But the chief strategist of the Concorde, a tall insectoid named Varnox, stood calmly and said, "It's the humans." The room fell quiet. "They have always been too quiet," Varnox said. "Too disciplined," he laughed. "Yes, but perhaps we were wrong. If this is them, we may have a problem." The Krenax Emperor snarled, "Humans, they are insects." Varnox turned. "Insects that have studied war for over 1,000 years, that have survived nuclear winters, AI revolts, and internal collapse, and still came out stronger. They forgot nothing. They just waited." At that moment, a distress signal came in from a mining colony near the Orion Expanse. The video was short. A Concorde destroyer arrived to secure a valuable refinery. The humans were supposed to have left the area years ago. Destroyer scanned the facility. It looked empty. Then the walls opened. Hidden railguns powered by cold fusion tore the destroyer apart in seconds. The guns had no power signatures, no radar, no warning. The humans hadn't abandoned the area. They had buried it. The colony had been a decoy, a trap left waiting for whoever dared enter. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people still lived quietly. News screens were normal. Cities operated as usual. Children played in parks. There was no panic, no speeches, no martial law, but in the sky, black. Ships moved behind the clouds from deep underground. Old bunkers opened. Subterranean factories, silent for generations, roared to life. Thousands of AI-driven machines began assembling new weapons. On Luna, the moon base, thousands of cryochambers lit up. Old soldiers, veterans from Earth's last great war centuries ago, began to wake. They had trained for this day. They remembered everything back on Mars. The Black Ice Command began moving. From behind the planet's dusty cliffs, gigantic battleships rose like sleeping beasts. Their hulls were invisible to scanners. Their engines made no sound. They had one goal: defend Earth until the final breath. But Earth didn't plan to just defend. They planned to send a message. The AI in charge of Black Ice, sentient system named Omen, sent one transmission through. A hidden line to the Concorde core. It played on every screen at once. A dark background. A human figure, face hidden in shadow. A calm voice spoke. For too long you laughed. For too long we were patient. We tried peace. You chose mockery now. We choose silence. The screen went black. That night, dozens of Concorde colonies lost power. Their communications crashed. AI systems froze. Navigation data became corrupted. Entire fleets went blind in space. Panic spread fast. The Concorde fleet tried to regroup. But every command ship found their messages jammed. They tried to send scouts toward Earth, but none returned. Not because they were destroyed, but because the humans let them in, then turned them off from the inside. The greatest minds in the galaxy were stunned. How and why didn't they see this coming? The answer was simple. The humans had never forgotten. They had prepared in silence. And now, it had begun. The Krinax warlord Varnock growled as he stared at the main view screen. Behind him, the bridge crew stood silent, eyes wide with fear. His fleet floated just beyond the Sol system, a fleet of 60 warships. Enough, he thought, to bring Earth to its knees. He pointed at the Terran border beacon blinking calmly on the screen. This is their final warning, he barked. Open a channel. All frequencies. The comms officer nodded. Moments later, his deep voice echoed across the stars. Humans. I am Warlord Varnock, heir to the Krinax throne and commander of the Bloodstorm Armada. You coward monkeys, come out and face us. The message broadcast to every nearby system. Aliens across the Concorde tuned in, expecting drama, a fiery response, even a battle, but no reply came. Not from Earth, not from Luna, not from anywhere. Just silence. The Krinax fleet waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Warlord slammed his clawed fist into the control panel. They mock us with their silence. Target the Pluto outpost. Fire everything. His ships locked on to the ancient Terran relay station floating above Pluto. Missiles launched. Beams of plasma burned through the black void. The station didn't move. But the moment the first missile reached it, everything changed. The Warlord's flagship shook. Lights flickered. Emergency alarms howled. Crew members screamed as gravity vanished and the floor became the ceiling. What's happening? Varnock roared. No one answered. Then explosions. Small. Precise. Controlled. One by one, systems across every ship in the fleet began shutting down. Engines overloaded. Hulls cracked from inside. Life support failed. It wasn't an attack from the outside. Something was inside the ships, on the Warlord's own bridge. His screens turned to static. A cold, robotic voice came from the speakers. You entered without permission. He turned. Claws ready, as a black drone dropped from the ceiling sharp, fast, and glowing with red light. It zipped forward and buried itself in the Warlord's chest. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was his fleet breaking apart without a single human ship ever firing a shot. On the edge of the solar system, hidden Terran vessel watched it all. The TNS Hallowed Storm, cloaked in full light-bending armor, didn't need to move. Inside, Captain Alara Voss watched the wreckage calmly. All targets neutralized, her AI reported. No external detection, no survivors. Alara nodded. Send a message to High Command. Silence holds. The AI paused. Another Krinax fleet has entered Sector 4. 40 ships are calling for revenge. Let them scream, Alara said. They won't hear a sound before it ends. Back in Concord space, panic began to rise. The destruction of Warlord Varnik's fleet could no longer be hidden. The videos leaked.
Ow.
Dozens of ships, dead and drifting. No escape pods. Distress beacons. No bodies, just silence. News networks across the galaxy ran headlines. What happened at Pluto? Black Ice Fleet. A human myth or a real threat? Did Earth destroy a Concord armada without firing? Alien leaders held emergency councils. Many wanted to attack Earth immediately, but their military officers refused. Too dangerous. 2. Unknown Varnix, the Concord strategist, stood before the High Senate. I warned you. The humans never forgot. They never forgave. They prepared. But how? One ambassador cried. We've seen their technology. We've monitored their fleets for years. Varnik showed a new recording. Satellite images of the Saturn rings, changing thousands of shapes rising from the dust and ice. Long, sleek warships, silent, black, covered in cloak tech. No Concord sensor could detect. We thought the rings were natural, Aronnax said. We were wrong. The Saturn ring fleet was real. A hidden human armada, sleeping for centuries, now fully awake. And it wasn't alone. Reports came in from deep space. A Concord trade convoy near Proxima Centauri had been stopped by unknown ships. They hadn't been attacked, but their engines failed. Their AI shut down, their weapons jammed, ships were boarded silently, their cargo removed. The crews were found unharmed, but unconscious. When they woke, all they remembered was a single message carved into their ship's walls. We were patient. No more. Panic swept through the Concord. Their AI systems began malfunctioning. Orbital defense grids stopped responding. Supply chains broke down. Hyperlanes near human space flickered in and out. Then it hit them: the humans weren't using normal weapons. They were using silence. Cyber attacks. Ghost drones, nano-dash mines, tools no one else could even understand. And worse, no threats were made. No statements, no ultimatums, only silence. In the center of it all was Earth, quiet, untouched. They didn't move their fleet. They didn't broadcast demands. They didn't answer calls. But they watched everything Concord. Citizens began fleeing planets near human space. Border colonies emptied. Some smaller species begged Earth for protection instead of Concord support. Earth gave no reply. Inside the Earth Defense Command, deep under Antarctica, the Terran High Council watched the galaxy spin into fear. Their war plan, named Eclipse Protocol, was working perfectly. Have we heard from the Concord? Asked one general. Still sending messages, replied another, begging for talks, peace negotiations. Do we answer? Captain Alara's voice came in over the secure channel, called, cold. Not yet. On Venus, a strange glow filled the sky as ancient orbital factories began building massive drone carriers. On Mercury, the sun-powered forges built new stealth frigates that could hide in solar flares. On the Moon, laser platforms shifted into attack position, waiting. The humans had waited long enough. They weren't hiding anymore, but they weren't speaking either. The galaxy expected screams. Instead, they got whispers. They expected armies instead. They got shadows. And when they begged for a response, humanity gave them silence. The kind of silence that made everyone wonder. What comes next? Billions across the galaxy woke up to the same thing. Not music, not news, not the weather. Just 5 blinking words on every screen, in every language. We remember. Operation begins now.
Ow.
The words vanished after 5 seconds. One knew what it meant. Not yet. In Concord space, the largest capital ships drifted through open space ready for war. Generals barked orders. Fleet commanders reviewed targets. Governors reinforced border defenses near Earth, but within 1 hour, everything began to collapse. The Concord's main communication hub, Relay Station 09, orbiting the star Meser, stopped. Working, no damage, no signs of attack, just dead. 30 minutes later, Station 12 went offline, then Station 03, then Station 17, across 15 sectors. Concorde's long-range communication systems vanished. Next, the banking systems failed. Credits vanished. Transfers bounced. Entire economic zones froze. Then factories stopped. Then power grids. Then military satellites lost tracking. It wasn't an invasion. It wasn't bombs or fleets. It was something worse. Human cyber war. For years, humanity had quietly infected. Concorde systems piece by piece, line by line. They hid inside power relays, inside cooling systems, inside navigation maps, like ghosts in the machine. Now, the ghosts were awake. In the Concorde capital. Prime Chancellor Azaric stared in horror as reports flooded in. "We've lost control of 4 military districts," one officer shouted. "Our main supply chain has gone dark. Civilian cities are losing power over 100 worlds offline." Azaric slammed his fists on the table. "Get Earth on the line now." His assistants tried, no response. The Terran network refused every call. Still, Earth had not fired a single shot until now above the distant mining world of Roscofor. Sky turned black. Concorde patrols looked up and froze. An entire human fleet emerged from behind the moon. Massive, silent, invisible until the last second. They called it Archangel Protocol. Thousands of Terran warships black as space, cold as ice arrived. Without warning, they didn't speak, they didn't answer hails. They simply opened fire. No flashy beams. No loud missiles. Just clean, precise strikes. One by one, Concorde ships exploded, cut in half by railguns that hit faster than light. Station defenses jammed. Fighters never launched. Within minutes, the entire sector was silent. HFY 4 surrendered, without a single word. But the humans didn't stay. They left, quietly. Cleanly, only one thing remained. A single message burned into the side of the planet's main city wall. "Do not laugh. Back." Back in the Concorde capital, Azaric stood frozen. "What do they want?" he whispered. No one could answer. The galaxy fell into fear. Across 5 Concorde sectors, human fleets appeared from nowhere. Black Ice Command was everywhere. Ships that could cloak even inside star radiation. Weapons that never missed. Drones that hacked enemies mid-battle. But it wasn't just war. It was control. Human AISs began replacing planetary security systems. Concorde factories began building human parts without permission. Local AI networks started speaking in Terran command code in a farming colony on Maddox Prime. Concorde governor tried to shut down the system. His own machines turned against him. Lights went out, doors sealed. Fields burned. His final report was only 3 words. "We are compromised." Then he was gone. In 1 week, the Concorde lost. 27 star systems, 132 warships, 400. Communication relays 3 homeworlds of minor species, all contact with Earth, and yet humanity never broadcast a threat, never demanded anything, never sent a diplomat. The galaxy expected war, but what they got was something far more terrifying. A silent dismantling. Old races that once mocked Earth now begged for answers. Concorde news anchors cried on live broadcast. Entire planets turned their lights off and waited in the dark, afraid to be next. Still, the Terran fleets waited above the Concorde capital world. Something terrifying appeared. 12 enormous human ships arrived from the dark. Edge of space, each one a kilometer long. Each one shaped like a spear. Each one coated in armor. No scanner could read. They made no sound. They did not fire. They just floated. The Concorde defense systems tried to scan them. They failed. Tried to target them. Failed. One ship, the Blade of Dawn, moved closer. All. Concorde forces powered up their shields and aimed weapons, but the ship did not attack. Instead, it broadcast one sentence. You were warned. And then, all 12 human ships activated their beacon. Coordinates appeared, not random, not hidden, not complex. The direct path to the Concord Senate capital, Ilara Voss. Standing on the bridge of the Blade of Dawn, looked at the live feed from across the galaxy. She saw them beg. She saw them scream. She saw their fear. But her face remained calm. Do we fire? Her second-in-command asked. Ilara stared into the dark void ahead. No. They need to understand. Understand what? She turned. That we're not angry, she said. We're just done pretending to be weak. The Terran AI Eidolon sent a new message across every Concord channel. This time, they spoke. Every screen blinked once. Then the voice came. You laughed. You erased history. You broke treaties. You harmed our people. Ain't. Offered peace. You offered silence. Now we return the favor. This is not war. This is a lesson.
Operation?
Show them pain is in effect. And the screen went black. The Concord president stood before a galaxy-wide broadcast. Her hands trembled. Her eyes were wide with fear. Behind her, military officers and advisors shifted nervously. Some had resigned already. Others had vanished. Every major world tuned. In billions of beings watched. Her voice cracked as she began. This was all a misunderstanding. A mistake, she said. We did not know the humans were this powerful. We asked for peace. But no reply came. She cleared her throat and continued. We asked the Terran Union for dialogue, for a ceasefire. For forgiveness, we are ready to listen, ready to work together. The signal cut out. The screen turned black. Then, in total silence, Earth's fleet arrived. Every Concord telescope, every sensor, every camera caught the same image at the same time, a Terran warfleet emerging from the void. Not hundreds, thousands, 12,000 human ships. From Titan, from Luna, from Black Ice Command, from Mars, from deep, dark places where the stars had forgotten them. They came in perfect formation. No lights, no trails, no sound. Each ship was shaped like a blade or a hammer, thick, heavy, built for only one thing, total destruction. The Concord. Senate's defense systems powered up. Planetary shields went to full. Weapons locked onto targets, but not one human ship fired. They just waited. Every defense scanner failed to lock on. One. Concord Admiral panicked. He ordered the orbital cannons to fire. The moment the first laser beam left the cannon, it fizzled and vanished. The gun exploded from within. Human cyber drones had already infected their systems. Days ago, the Concord High Command realized something terrifying. Earth knew their plans before they did. On the surface of the capital world, millions gathered in. The streets, looking up, waiting, praying. Then came the voice. It didn't come from ships. It came from every screen, every speaker, every implant across the galaxy. The voice was soft, calm, terrifying. It was Eidolon, the Terran AI. Now you. Listen. The streets froze. You have taken from us. You laughed at us. You've tortured our civilians. You broke your own rules. You thought we forgot. We didn't. This is not revenge. This is education. The Concord president fell to her knees. 100 alien leaders begged for mercy. One race offered full surrender. Another offered their homeworld as tribute. Still the Terran fleet held its position. Silent, no shots fired. No deaths. No destruction. Just fear. Deep, silent. Endless fear. Inside the TNS hallowed storm, Ilara Voss stood at the observation deck. Below her, the capital world floated like a jewel, shaking, trembling, begging. Her officers waited for the order. Fire. Someone asked. No, she said quietly. They don't need fire. They need memory. She opened a channel directly to the Concord president. Only 5 words were spoken. We were never your joke. The message spread faster than any virus. Every Concord citizen heard it. Every military officer heard it. Every child. Every elder. Every ruler. And suddenly, everything changed. The Concord Senate sent a public request. They didn't ask for peace. They didn't ask for surrender. They asked Earth to take control, to lead, to guide the galaxy, to become the protectors of peace. But Earth did not reply. Instead, the Terran fleet began to move, not toward the planet, away from it. They turned, ship by ship, and entered warp space, gone in minutes. Not one shot fired, not one building touched, only the memory remained. A memory of 12,000 ships, of silence, of eyes watching from the shadows, of a race that had been mocked, insulted, and underestimated for generations. Finally showing what they truly were. On the Concord Capitol, a child asked his father, "Why didn't the humans destroy us?" The father answered softly, "Because they didn't need to." And then he whispered, "They just wanted us to remember." The galaxy held its breath. After the largest show of power in recorded history, Earth had said almost nothing. No declarations, no demands, no revenge. The Terran fleet had arrived, shown their strength, and vanished like ghosts. But those five words changed everything. "We were never your joke." They echoed across every Concord world, printed on signs, whispered in streets, etched into walls. People repeated them over and over, trying to understand what they had truly meant. On the surface, it was simple, but deep inside, it was a message of fury, memory, and power. In response, the Concord High Council met for a final emergency session. Hundreds of alien leaders gathered. Their eyes were tired, some were crying, some were afraid to speak. Even the Kreenoks, who once laughed the loudest, stayed silent. Varnox, the Concord strategist, stood and spoke. "We mocked them," he said. "We called them primitive, dirty, violent." He held up an old human file, a timeline. The room went still. "This is their history. Read it." He activated the Hello-screened Earth. Year 2100. Nuclear wars. Oceans boiling. Cities turned to glass. Earth. Year 2200 AI rebellion. Machines controlled 70% of the planet. Humans fought back with knives and hacking tools. Sand 1. Earth. Year 2300. Internal collapse. Nations burned. Hunger ruled. Yet they rebuilt, unified, and launched deep space ships. Earth. Year 2400. Terraforming Mars while fighting civil war back home. Earth. Year 2500. Alien invasion attempt. Earth stopped it in 2 days. No one knew. The Terran Union erased the event. From public record, the room stayed quiet. "These people," Varnick said, "have been through more pain, more loss, more danger than the rest of us combined. And they didn't die. They didn't beg." He turned to the room. They remembered. A slow wave of fear moved through the chamber. Because now, they all understood. The humans were not dangerous because of their weapons. They were dangerous. Because of their will, they survived everything, adapted, improved, planned, and they waited, quietly until now. The chief archivist of the Avexi race stood next. His feathers shook. "We deleted their achievements from our books," he said. "We made them a joke in schools. Our children laughed. Our media laughed." He looked down. "We were wrong." One ambassador stood and shouted, "Then let us send tribute, offer our planets, our fleets." But another voice interrupted. It came from nowhere. Every screen lit up. Every speaker buzzed. Every sensor froze. Eidolon had returned the Terran. Its voice calm. "Steady, no. We do not want your fleets. We do not want your planets. We want you to see us, to remember us, to never forget again." Then the screens began to show images. Old, real images. From Earth's darkest times, humans crawling through snow with nothing but sticks, children reading under burning lights, soldiers holding the line while wounded, civilians building cities from ruins. Doctors saving lives in falling buildings and then space. Humans reaching out, building, exploring, failing, rising. Again, every image burned itself into the minds of the galaxy. They saw what humans truly were, not monsters, not fools, not premias. The voice returned, "We don't need to rule. We don't need to conquer. We just need you to understand. We will never be your joke again." Then, for the first time in history, the entire galaxy fell silent. No broadcasts, no music, no trade alerts, no pirate signals. Nothing. Only silence. And then, a new message appeared. Not from Concord, not from Earth, from the smallest worlds. Ignored ones, the weak ones. Species Concord had abused. Colonies left to die. Refugees ignored by power. They stood up and spoke. "We stand with Earth." Hundreds of them. Thousands, one by one. Small ships launched banners. Tiny worlds raised human flags. Weak races offered loyalty, not out of fear, but because they had seen the truth. Earth had not just shown power, they had given hope. Because if humans could survive everything and rise, so could they, in the Terran control room on Earth, deep under the Himalayas. Captain Alara Voss watched it all in silence. The screen showed messages from across the stars. Requests. Praises. Thanks. Apologies. But she said nothing. One officer asked, "Captain, do we respond?" Alara looked at the Earth flag above them, then shook her head. "No, not yet. They need time," she said, "to think, to remember, to understand. They need to know we're not gods. We're just human." She looked out at the stars, and that's enough. The Concord fleets never fully recovered. Their ships were repaired. Yes, their factories restarted. Their leaders reshuffled. But something had changed forever. It wasn't just about Earth's power. It was about what came next. Because Earth had vanished again. No transmissions, no fleets, no activity. The entire Terran armada had withdrawn behind a digital wall. Not a blockade, not a shield, but a black hole of signals. Nothing went in, nothing came out. Earth had sealed itself in. Silence, and now everyone wondered, what were they planning? Rumors filled the galaxy. One said Earth was building a weapon that could crack planets. Another claimed they had unlocked faster-than-light teleportation. Some believed they had contacted something beyond the galaxy, but no one knew the truth, and that made the fear worse. Inside Concord Military HQ, the new Supreme Admiral Lerthos, a four-eyed reptilian strategist, called an emergency meeting. Holograms of hundreds of military officers appeared around him. "We cannot live in fear forever," he growled. "We must find out what they're doing." "They haven't attacked us," one general replied. "They gave us mercy." "Is a trap," Lerthos snapped. "That's what predators do when they're full. But when they're hungry again." The room stayed quiet. Then Lerthos leaned forward. "I want scouts. Every system around Sol, every asteroid, every moon." "It? Want to know if Earth breathes?" And so, the Concord launched Project Sentinel. Thousands of tiny spy drones, stealth units, cloaked AI probes, all sent into human space. Quiet, careful, but only one came back. Just one. And it didn't return whole. It arrived above the Concord. Capital burning, damaged, barely flying. Inside was a single black cube. No circuits, no interface, just a message carved into the surface. Some doors should never be opened. The drone self-destructed seconds later, but that was enough. The message spread fast. Suddenly, Concord worlds began setting limits. No more ships into Terran zones. No more military exercises near Earth. No more jokes in schools. No more lies in history books. Earth was now a ghost in the stars, silent, watching, unpredictable, and in every shadow is the fear of return. Meanwhile, in a hidden Terran outpost, on Kepler 186f, a secret meeting took place. 6 human commanders stood in a cold room, beneath a glowing hologram of the galaxy. Captain Alara Voss. Now, wearing a black command coat with no rank, just the Earth's emblem spoke first. Concord is scared, but they're moving again, quietly, carefully, and they will try again. Her second in command, a cybernetically enhanced soldier named Sorenlock, replied, "Should we strike first?" Alara shook her head. "Not yet. The lesson must linger. Let them breathe it in." Another commander asked, "And the others?" Alara turned toward a different map, one not labeled Concord. It was marked in red dot: unknown systems, unknown forces, unknown threats. "We've been so focused on revenge," she said quietly, "that we forgot something bigger." She pointed to the edge of the map, beyond the stars, beyond what anyone had charted. "We're not the only shadow out there." Silence filled the room. Then she activated a hidden file. A grainy transmission played at first. It was just static. Then a sound, not a voice. A roar. Not human. Not alien. Something old. Deep. Powerful. The image sharpened, just enough to show one thing. A ship burned. Cracked. Floating dead in space. But it was not human, and not from any known race. The message came with coordinates. Far from Earth. Outside the old galactic edge. The file name was simple. They are waking. Alara Voss turned to her team. "We scared the galaxy," she said. "We became the monster in the dark. But now," she looked back at the screen, "we may not be the only one, or the worst one." The commanders nodded slowly, and then, for the first time in years, Alara smiled, but not with joy. It was a cold, calculating smile. "Let the galaxy stay afraid of us," she said. "Let them whisper our name in fear. But if something worse is coming," she stepped forward, "they'll come running to the monsters they mocked. They'll beg the humans to save them. And this time," she turned off the lights, "we'll decide who lives." 2 years passed. The galaxy tried to move on, tried to rebuild, tried to forget the fear, but they couldn't. Every time a Concord child looked up at the stars, he remembered the 12,000 human warships. Every time a fleet commander issued orders, they wondered if Earth was watching, and still, the humans said nothing. Their borders stayed sealed, their transmissions stayed dark, until something terrible happened. In a far-off system beyond the galactic rim sector, X-Nanan exploration fleet vanished. It wasn't Concord. It wasn't pirates. It wasn't humans. They found only fragments floating in empty space. Hulls melted. Ships torn apart like paper. But there was no blast damage. No signs of weapons. Just destruction. And on the largest fragment, carved into the metal with something hot and ancient, were 3 words. "You are next." The Concord. Senate panicked. Again, another fleet was sent. Gone. Entire colonies began vanishing in the dark. And finally, they saw it. The Maw. A black ship, 3 times the size of a Concord moon. Its shape constantly shifted. It moved like it was alive. It had no lights, no engines. No signature, just a hunger. It devoured worlds, whole worlds, and it was moving. Toward the center of the galaxy, toward Concord, and toward Earth. Panic turned into desperation, for the first time in their history. Concord leaders said the words they never imagined they would say, "Call the humans." They sent envoys, pleas data, offers full surrender. They begged Earth to respond. They waited days, then weeks. The black ship moved. Closer, 30 Concord systems were gone. Dead, dark, then just. As the Maw approached the Concord capital, Earth answered. But not with a fleet, not with war, not with weapons. Just a voice, calm, cold, familiar. EIDOL, in the Terran AIS. Its message appeared on every device in the galaxy. "We warned you then. Stand down." And then the stars exploded. Not literally, but it felt that way. From every hidden corner of the galaxy, Terran ships uncloaked, not thousands, millions. Ships hidden behind stars, buried under moons. Frozen beneath asteroid ice, the full Terran armada, drones swarmed from the dark, black ice. Warships activated from deep sleep, AI-guided battleships appeared in perfect formation, surrounding the Maw before it reached the Concord. Worlds in silence, the fleet aligned, and then they attacked. The Maw fired first. It unleashed waves of energy. It's dark and ancient. 5 Terran ships melted instantly, but the rest adapted, shifted, moved like they had trained for this moment there. Whole lives because they had. Operation Apex was activated, the secret Terran protocol. Not meant for aliens, meant for something else. Something worse. The fight was brutal, silent, relentless, massive. Terran fusion hammers smashed into the Maw. Swarm drones entered the creature's shifting hull and exploded from the inside. AI ghosts hacked the creature's systems. It even had systems. And at the center of it all, the Blade of Dawn, Ilaravas's ship. Charged into the heart of the Maw, she sent no message, no speech, only action. Her ship cracked open. The creature's core with a final pulse of gravity energy. The Maw screamed and died. The wreck floated in space, glowing like a fallen god. And then, Earth spoke again to the whole galaxy. A final message. This is who we are. You laughed at us. You feared us. You forgot us. Now you remember. Then came the final words. We don't want to rule. We want peace. But if monsters come again, we'll be waiting. The Terran fleet vanished, just as fast as it came. No conquest, no trophies, just silence again. But this time, the silence meant safety. This time, it meant the galaxy had a guardian, and across every world concord, rebel, independent, even pirate. Stations, they whispered the same thing when the monsters came. We called Earth. And Earth came. Not as kings, not as gods, but as humans. And no one laughed again.